Good evening, everybody. It's Rod with Pow Group. Welcome back on the Pursuit of Wealth, your home for MJ Stocks, Crypto Assets, and Interviews. It's Thursday, June 1st. Brand new month. Hope you're doing well. Going to get started with today's live stream here momentarily. But before we get started, I see we have quite a few people joining us, so welcome to the live stream. Appreciate you tuning in. If you could smash the like, help support me in the channel. It doesn't cost you anything. And I know we have a lot of people joining the channel, a lot of new subscribers and things like that. So make sure to smash the like, help support me, and subscribe. You'll be notified on any future videos or when I go live. Going to be discussing Tilray Brands today and the possibility of whether or not we could see a reverse split in the stock. And we'll do some analysis. We'll do an update on the Reddit AMA as well. But just sit tight. We'll give it another 30 seconds or so for people to join us. Also, let us know where you're tuning in from. All right, going to get started here in about 10 seconds. I see we have quite a few people with us. We'll give it another 10 seconds or so for people to join us. Just sit tight. All right, let's get the show kicked off. Let us know where you're tuning in from, everybody. It's Rod with Pow Group, as I mentioned. Welcome back on the Pursuit of Wealth, your home for MJ Stocks, Crypto Assets, and Interviews. Today is Thursday. It's a brand new month, June 1st. Hope you're doing awesome. And in this video, obviously not coming on here to try to spread FUD or anything like that or to make anybody worried. I'm just talking about the real possibility that we could potentially see Tilray with the broader market, rushing towards back to all-time highs. Apple today was very close to an all-time high. We have tons of names, NVIDIA, that are really recovering well since the lows of the 52-week lows that we recently hit. And we know that tech has been strong. And if the broader market were to go the other way, in my opinion, MJ is not set up well at all. And we could potentially see Tilray drop below $1. Whether or not a reverse split happens, no one really knows for sure, but there is a real possibility of that happening. But again, I'm not on here to spread fear or anything like that. We're just talking about all scenarios, and that is a scenario that is at play. But before we get to it, like I said, make sure to smash the like, help support me in the channel. It doesn't cost you anything, and you can tick the bell to be notified on any future videos or when I go live. So as I mentioned, we'll talk about the reverse split possibility, and then we'll do a quick update on the AMA as well. Ask me anything on Reddit, and if anybody did participate in that, let me know what you thought of that. In my opinion, it was pretty standard stuff. There wasn't a whole lot of information there that I didn't already know, or anything that really stood out. But like I said, if you were a part of that AMA, let me know in the comments, and then we'll leave some time at the end for any kind of questions and answers, things like that, and I'll give my thoughts and opinions. But first and foremost, this isn't financial advice. This is for entertainment purposes only and educational purposes only, and this is just my thoughts and opinions, right? I'm just a regular guy. I'm just a retail investor like each and every one of you that's probably tuning in, and I'm just trying to uncover the truth and find the investments here that are going to stand the test of time here over the next 5 to 10 years in the MJ space, because that's really what it's going to take, is standing the test of time and surviving long enough until we see regulatory reform, especially in the US. But first and foremost, thanks so much for everybody in the community getting real close to that 500,000 views on the channel. A lot of people asking, how come I don't have more subscribers? How come I don't have more views? Well, I'm not really clickbaity, and I tell people what they need to hear, not exactly what they want to hear. And, case in point, this video is called a reverse split, and that's generally not what people want to hear, right? But I'm just being real with you guys and gals, and this is something that can happen. I have seen a lot of new subscribers in the last month or so thank you very much. I appreciate that. And make sure to like the video, share it with anybody that might find value. But today, Tilray Brands Chairman and CEO Irwin Simon to participate in the Bernstein 39th Annual Strategic Decisions Conference. And then also CFO Carl Merton was also meeting with institutional investors throughout the day. And I did a video not too long ago about SNB, Swiss National Bank, increasing its position in Tilray as well, now valued at about 3.34 million. And in that video, I talk about the institutional interest in Tilray and how it's been ramping up over the last quarter or so. So not surprising that we see him meeting with more institutional investors, especially when we're dropping to new all-time lows. and 52-week lows across the sector. So we should see an update on that on this conference, potentially some videos on that. I haven't seen anything yet, but I will keep everybody up to date if I do see that. But I also just did a video on CGC, and CGC is well below $1 now on the NASDAQ. If we go up here, CGC closed today at 83 cents. I think that is, how many days now below $1? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we're 5 days below $1 now. It's not looking good for CGC. Who would have thought granddaddy CGC could be at risk of a reverse split, right, in order to maintain compliance with the NASDAQ. So if it can happen to CGC, if it can happen to all the other major players in the sector, right, we know Aurora just got another listing warning. So they've already done, I think, what did they do, like a 1 for 14 or a 1 for 12 reverse split. Now they're getting another warning. OGI, so Organogram has a warning. VFF, we've got all the names in the space, right? High Tide has done a reverse split. The only names that haven't done reverse splits are the U.S. names, and that's because they're not listed on U.S. major exchanges, right, like the NYSE and the NASDAQ. So eventually, when they do uplist, they're probably going to have a similar problem, right, with maintaining that $1 threshold, especially if the U.S. were to prolong legalization at the federal level. If we see uplisting safe banking, uplisting to the NYSE and NASDAQ, and it takes a while for U.S. legalization to happen at the federal level, well, then they could be in the same predicament, right? So just keep in mind that if it can happen to CGC, which was once the leader in the space, it can definitely happen to Tilray. And like I said, with SPY right now, the S&P 500, we are trending back toward all-time highs. But if we take a look at the .com fractal, we are following it eerily, very, very similarly here and eerily in terms of the .com fractal. We hit on the RSI in 96, we hit very overbought here on the monthly time frame, and then 4 years later the price peaked, and then we went to monthly oversold. Same thing's happening now, where in 2018 the RSI peaked, and then 4 years later the price peaked, and then we're potentially heading to monthly oversold. This could be a type of relief rally before we see one more descent. But again, I've been saying for a while now, check out my video on what was a SPY ETF target 439. So there is a weekly bull flag right now on the S&P 500 that says we're targeting 439, and we're breaking to a weekly higher high. So it's looking like that could come into play. But what I'm expecting is a potential deviation from this. And what I've been saying in that video as well, that I expected this deviation to occur because of the fact that we have so much, money printer go burr. We have trillions and trillions of dollars from the Fed that's artificially propping up the market. We didn't have that back in the .com days. And Congress has still yet to be banned from owning stock. So I'm expecting this rally to deviate because of how manipulated the markets are, because of the trillions of dollars printed, and because Congress still has yet to be banned from owning stocks. The Federal Reserve employees were banned from owning stocks here at the top, right? All-time highs, not down here, of course, at the all-time highs. So where do you think Congress is going to want to ban themselves? Probably somewhere close to all-time highs, if not a new all-time high, right? So I'm expecting that deviation. But if MJ doesn't recover here in a hurry, we're going to be in trouble, because if we don't get safe banking, if we don't get some sort of legalization of medical, rescheduling, descheduling, if we don't get the MJ Act review here in Canada with taxation, said that 30 to 40% of revenue is going toward federal excise taxes. If we don't get 280E figured out, then we're going to be a long time coming before we see any relief. And I think, in my opinion, those catalysts are going to be what's required in order to see us get lifted out of this bear market. And we need to recover in a hurry, because what if the S&P 500 starts to what if we start to continue to follow this .com fractal, which I think is very possible, and we potentially hit new lows, and we could go as low as, in my opinion, low 200s on the S&P 500. But again, I'm going to be watching for Congress being banned from owning stocks as a top indicator. So like I said, if that happens to SPY, MJ could be in for even more hurt, right? And I do want to bring up a couple of other things here after, but we'll go into the AMA here real quick. I have a lot I want to cover and not a lot of time. And I do want to save some time. I know we got a ton of people on the live stream here and a ton of messages coming in. And I do want to save some time at the end for that. So Tilray but yeah, just one more thought process on that last thing. So if we don't recover quickly, MJ isn't set up well for the S&P 500 to see any kind of pullback, right? If we pull back 50% from the all-time high, just like we did in the .com days, and this time around the everything bubble's even bigger bubble, in my opinion, than the .com, then MJ isn't going to be set up well at all. If we can see a reversal and a relief rally and a nice move in MJ, whether it be safe banking, whether it be HHS coming back with a scheduling update, something that can lift us out of this. If we don't start to see couple 100% moves, we're starting to see AYR, Cureleaf, Cresco's moving. AYR was up like 130% over the last month or something like that. But we're starting to see some moves here. If we can see that across the rest of the sector, then if SPY does see some weakness, then that might get Tilray out of reverse split territory. But again, it can happen to CGC, it can happen to Tilray. And like I said, not set up well at all if the S&P 500 were to crater. And we know the debt ceiling right now vote is coming in the Senate tomorrow, as early, so we'll see. But we need to recover here quickly. We need a catalyst, but at the end of the day, we just need to prepare for all scenarios and keep some dry powder and diversify, not just in the MJ space, right? But diversify in other sectors, right? Tech, crypto, real estate, having cash, right? Cash is a position as well. So these are all things that we can do, not just diversification in the sector, but overall in our portfolio. And I was talking to private members today saying that, it's not just Tilray that's down 30%. If you look at CGC over the last couple of weeks, it's down like 35%. Hexo's down like 35%. We got tons of names that are down on average around 20, 30%. And then some names in the US, there's some outliers, but overall the average is down about 20, 30% over the last couple of weeks. And like I said, notable mention there to Curaleaf and Cresco, which is seeing some pretty big upside here in the last couple of weeks, kind of going against the grain there a little bit. But this was the update from Reddit. Tilray Brands Ask Me Anything with CFO Carl Merton. Again, there wasn't a whole lot in here that I thought really stood out. It was pretty standard stuff. But if you haven't seen that, you can just, I'll put the link in the description as well after the fact. But essentially, you can go through and read this in your own time. I did read all of the responses, but I went through and highlighted a couple things here. So he does give an opening spiel and pretty much answered a lot of people's questions. And, he kind of just refers back to this a lot throughout. But essentially, they go on to talk about repositioning Aphria, optimize operations and cost efficiencies with the Tilray transaction. We built the leading Canadian MJLP licensed producer with #1 market share across Canada today. And with the Hexo transaction, we expect to continue to grow our Canadian MJ business and capture further market share, which obviously very doable because Hexo was 100% MJ focused. So not surprising for Tilray because we know that they have multiple different avenues of their business, right? They have health and wellness, they have MJ, they have alcohol, and they have the distribution business. So they were lagging a little bit on the MJ side, so I think adding Hexo is a nice complement to their business model because it is focusing, getting back to that focus on MJ a little bit more. We strengthened and expanded our international MJ business over 20 countries and new markets and territories across the globe. Today, we have the leading medical MJ market share across Europe. As an adaptation to the delay in U.S. federal MJ legalization, we built a strong and profitable U.S. beverage alcohol business, including repositioning Sweetwater into the #1 craft brewer in Georgia, #2 brewer in Southeast, and now with our recent acquisitions of Montauk, Alpine, and Green Flash, our U.S. beer business is the 9th largest craft brewer in the U.S. We've grown Breckenridge Distillery's distribution footprint across all states in the U.S. and continue to win the world's best awards, including 2023 World's Best Blended Whiskey Award. We stabilized Manitoba Harvest into a profitable business, creating the world's leading hemp foods brand with over 50% branded hemp market share in the U.S. and Canada. When MJ legalization does occur, we will leverage these U.S. businesses in beverage, alcohol, and wellness, including their distribution and marketing networks, to capture new expansive opportunities across the U.S. through the creation of a broad set of MJ-infused CPG brands. So as you can see, we're so early, and they're positioning themselves, right? They're able to capitalize on these brands. Whoops, that's not what I want to do. Hopefully, I can go back, and it will maintain my spot. And it doesn't look like it's going to. Well, before the stream, I went through and highlighted. Oh, there we go. Woohoo! All right, we're good. Hit the back button by accident, so I did go through and highlight all this. So why did we do the deal? They're talking about the convertible note. So as of February 28th, 2023, we had 139.8 million of Tilray convertible notes due on October 1st, 2023, and 260.4 million of Aphria convertible notes due on June 1st, 2024. Rather than using our cash, which we are reserving for investments and strategic acquisitions, that will provide a return to our shareholders. So that's interesting. We could see potential investments and even more mergers and acquisitions, potentially some more M&A. We sought to refinance our meaningful portion of our debt, which was due in June 2024, in order to lock in a lower interest rate, extend maturity to 2027, and strengthen our balance sheet with additional cash. Importantly, we did not do this to raise money for working capital purchases or to pay off previous losses. And something, you got to think too, if they're willing to, if someone's willing to give them $150 million, which is not really easy right now in the MJ space, they must be expecting a return, right? Or, maybe they just want to get interest payments. That's a possibility as well. But something that we'll be able to watch out for is the conversion of those convertible notes into equity. So if they do convert them into actual shares, that's going to be another testament and just vote of confidence in the stock, right? So why not use the $400 million cash on hand to pay down debt? We believe that cash is king, and we remain focused on strengthening our balance sheet as well as our cash position by paying down a portion of the debt and reinvesting into Tilray to further grow our global businesses and invest in new opportunities across the diverse business segments, including strategic and accretive M&A opportunities. So did the refinancing deal and convertible note benefit short sellers? I'm not going to go into all this, but essentially they say that no, none of the shares that were offered were for shorting purposes. So they shut that down pretty quickly. But again, just out of effort of time, I'm going to go on a little bit quicker. I also want to address the reoccurring confusion and misunderstanding around the executive compensation. So Irwin Simon does not have an annual base salary of 20 to 30 million, nor does he receive that in stock. Over 90% of Irwin's compensation and a substantial portion of the executive team compensation is contingent on performance-based equity incentives, which need to be reached before they can be paid out. This unequivocally shows the team's dedication and commitment to Tilray. As per SEC regulations, Tilray must report full value of executive compensation packages regardless if the targets are reached or not. Therefore, if any of those targets, including Tilray performance targets, are not met, they do not receive any compensation. As you can see, Irwin and the entire management team have skin in the game. Additionally, I would like to note that Irwin and other Section 16 executives currently own over 9.3 million shares in Tilray and have not sold any other on the open market other than to deal with taxes. And if you're curious, just look into how much the Apple CEO made. Obviously a lot different with Apple, but I do have some comparisons here to Apple that I want to make here in a moment. But yeah, I think he made over like $1 billion or something like that, including stock incentives and pay grade, everything like that. But no, it did get rid of it. Okay, here, hang on, bear with me here, folks. All right, well, it didn't save those previous. I went through and highlighted his responses, a couple things that I found interesting, but apparently it isn't saving my highlighted ones because I went back and then had to go forward again. Sorry about that, folks. But yeah, also he mentioned the Hexo debt and convertible note. He mentioned MedMen. He said he believes that MedMen is a nice opportunity. Obviously, whenever the U.S. is when federally permissible in the U.S., that's something that could really take hold. We're focusing on optimizing our operations, matching production with demand, reducing costs, driving revenue, and generating free cash flow. So again, I'll put the link in the description afterwards, and you can go in if you haven't already seen this. But realistically, there's not that much in here. Not a whole lot of pretty standard stuff. Not a whole lot that we haven't already knew, that we didn't already know, or things that I didn't. Nothing really popped out. Is basically the long and short of it. Yeah, kind of just reiterating a lot of the same stuff that we've said, and then he kind of goes back and refers to his opening statements a lot. But an effort of time, already in 20 minutes into this video, so I'm going to move on. But seeing a ton of people, right? And again, I've made this correlation and this comparison a lot of the times, and I know I'm going to ruffle a lot of people's feathers here with this one. People are going to be like, oh my God, not the Apple comparison again. But we really need to think about it. It is so true. I've seen tons of people, even in the Power Group private community, saying, oh, I'm down on Tilray. I'm down like 30% in the last couple of weeks. And, I'm down 85% or 80% or 90+% on my Tilray position. This is, a terrible investment. And, people will say that about anything, right? And anything can drop, 80 to 90% from its all-time high, but that doesn't mean that it's a bad investment, right? And you might have forgotten that in 1997, Microsoft rescued Apple from the brink with a lifeline of $150 million. And remember, back in 1997, $150 million was a lot of money, right? And Apple was on the verge of bankruptcy. And if not for Microsoft, they would have failed, right? And now, today, Apple is worth more than Microsoft. And if we go back here to 1997, when it was on the verge of bankruptcy, from the all-time high to the low, it fell about 81%. And then during the dot-com bubble and bust, boom and bust, it went from, I guess we're factoring in post-split and everything like that, but went down another 83%. But what happens after a while? The the declines start to become less and less, right? So this time in this bear market only dropped 65%. In this bear market only dropped 47%. In this bear market only dropped 35%. In this one, 45, right? So things start to drop less and less as the asset matures. And you got to keep in mind that if Apple could drop, 80, almost 90%, Amazon, during its run up in the 2000 boom and bust, it dropped over 90%. It was 95% Amazon dropped from the top to the low. Does it remind you of anything? And that didn't mean that it was a garbage investment, and then it went on to do what? 1,000x or something crazy like that. If we just take a look from the low there to where we are, it did a 644x. So $1,000 into $644,000 investment, right? And again, they were selling legitimate products, right? They started off as a book company. They didn't have the stigma to deal with, right? Apple was making computers, and something that you got to keep in mind is when the dot-com boom and bust happened, and when Apple almost went bankrupt, that was in the early stages of the internet. We're talking, the first 5, 10, 15 years of the internet, right? Whereas now, MJ, we're not even 5 years old here in Canada, fully legal here at the recreational level here in Canada. In the US, it's still federally illegal, right? So the game hasn't even started, right? We're not even in the first inning in the US yet, right? The game hasn't even started, but Tilray has positioned itself with its Sweetwater, Breckenridge, Manitoba Harvest, all of these brands that they have, they're positioning themselves for the inevitable legalization at the federal level, right? And again, this won't be the last time that it happens in every sector. It happens in the electric vehicle sector. It happens in tech. It happens in the banking sector. It happens in every sector. MJ, crypto, right? Everything will drop 90+%. This won't be the last time it'll happen in MJ either, right? But as the market caps grow, as the adoption and innovation flourishes, the drops become less and less because the market cap gets higher and higher, right? The more money, the harder it is to drop it 90%, right? And the less money, the easier it is, right? So again, if Amazon and Apple can drop that much, and if Apple almost went bankrupt, right? And they were selling legitimate products, they didn't have a stigma to deal with, right? They didn't have, there's a guy in Singapore who just got the death sentence for carrying, I think, 2 pounds of MJ on him. So he literally died. He was sentenced to death. You got to understand, there's so much growth to be had here, and we're not comparing apples to oranges, obviously, no pun intended. We're not comparing apples to apples, no pun intended. It's apples to oranges. I understand that. We can't compare Apple to Tilray, but you can compare what the early days were like, right? And again, if Apple almost went bankrupt, right, selling legitimate products in the early days of the internet, and then Tilray's in the early days of the MJ industry, selling products that are federally illegal in the US. Just imagine how much growth we would have if it was no longer federally illegal in the US. Europe, right, starting to come online, Germany, the rest of the world, right? And then Canada still with these crazy excise taxes where some companies are paying 30-40% of their bottom line going to the government. And there's hundreds of millions of dollars that are unpaid in federal excise taxes from all these LPs. There's over 1,000 LPs right now in Canada, licensed producers, and there's hundreds of millions of excise taxes that are just unpaid. So the Canadian government is the biggest creditor right now for these MJ companies. So again, you can find any sector, any investment, any company in any sector that has dropped 90% from all-time highs. But just because it dropped 90%, does that mean it's a bad investment? No. It just means that that's what the market's designed to do. And we get exuberant to the upside and we get exuberant to the downside. But yeah, not sugarcoating it. It's been brutal. But Tilray now down over 97% from its February 2021 highs, down 99% from its all-time highs. Obviously, we had that huge run-up that didn't really justify its valuation in any means or imagination, right? But it was what it was, and it is what it is. It's just market cycles, booms and busts, right? And in my opinion, like I said, Tilray could join the rest of the sector. Aurora, we've got CGC, we've got Hexo, we've got SNDL, we've got OGI, we've got High Tide, all doing reverse splits, and Tilray could be among them, right? Again, not set up well if the S&P 500 were to see any massive downside from here. But at the end of the day, Tilray is positioning itself as one of the global leaders. We've got Tilray, Afria, Hexo, Redecan, and this deal should go through with Hexo. The meeting coming up is on June 14th. I actually got the stuff here, the voting proxy here for the forum, but I'm going to be voting for, and it's going to be a global powerhouse, right? I believe that Tilray will be a top 5 global player, if not top 3, and they are diversified, right? So just like we should diversify in MJ, not just Canadian companies, but American producers, retailers, ETFs, and then outside of the industry, real estate, tech, crypto, right? Cash is a position as well. I hold a 6-figure cash position. Tilray is diversifying, and it's a smart idea because they're a branding company, and they're branching off into all these different things like alcohol and things like that can get them through. But later on, when federally permissible in the US, they'll be able to integrate and infuse MJ into those same brands. So the future is bright. It's just unfortunately right now we could see more downside. Like I said, especially if we see any kind of lagging in safe banking, uplisting, we get, if it takes a while to get HHS to get back with a verdict with regards to rescheduling or descheduling, if we don't see any kind of, lifts, any kind of improvements in taxation 280E or taxation from federal excess taxes here in Canada, we could continue to slide, right? And like I said, there's probably and something else you got to think of as well. Remember that video I did with hundreds of millions of dollars still being owed to the federal government in excise taxes from all these LPs? What's going to happen when they start filing creditor protection and insolvency? That's going to spark even more worry in the MJ space because they're just going to be companies that just can't pay the taxes or can't, they got more month at the end of the money instead of more money at the end of the month, and they're eventually just going to go insolvent, and that's going to be even more panic in the MJ industry, right? So that's something as well that could again bring us down. But if Tilray did drop below $1 and it did do a reverse split, do I think it's going to? I don't think so. But if it did, it would just join the rest of the sector doing reverse split, right? Every major name has done it already, and it would just be par for the course, right? Join the rest of the team here. But that doesn't mean that it's a terrible investment and that it isn't going to be, here in 5 to 10, 20 years from now, right? So I'm a wholehearted believer in Tilray. I do believe that with this acquisition of Hexo, they're going to be a top 3 global powerhouse. So, it is what it is. Unfortunately, the technicals don't look good right now at all. We had a bear cross of the stochastic and the MACD. We're well below the 10-week moving average. We were lining up for a potential golden cross, but we can't even get back above the 50-day moving average now. So we've got many, many months, at least 3 or 4 months before we can call a bottom on Tilray. And right now we're just going to be expecting more of the same, right? But like I said, we're down 97%, over 97% from February 2021 highs and down over 99%. And, that doesn't mean that we're down and out, right? That's pretty much the case for everything lately. Look at CGC from February. Look at that chart. That's nasty, right? Down over 98% from February 2021. And then over the last week, look at, if you think Tilray is the only one, look at CGC over the last week, down over 37%. Hexo in the last couple of weeks, down, about 37%. And then you got SNDL, right? How much is it down? Down 29%. So it's not just Tilray, even OGI getting absolutely destroyed. Down over 30%. And then the US names, right? You got some names like TrueLeaf hitting a new all-time low, right? Poster child. Over the last month, it's down about 32%. Cresco, I gotta give a shout out to CureLeaf and Cresco though. Look at CureLeaf and Cresco off the lows here, up 36% for CureLeaf. CL up about 40%, I think it was 49%, almost 50%. And AYR just stealing the show here from its low a couple months ago, up almost 150%. So, but starting to come back down now, following the rest of the sector. It doesn't move right down to the second, the day, the week, the minute. But overall, if we zoom out on this AYR chart, it's pretty similar, right? Same with CL, same with Cura, right? Same with TrueLeaf, same with CGC, right? The sector moves together, right? And price is not indicative of a company's value, right? And he mentions that in this. He said, we do not believe that our share price right now is indicative of, the strength of our company, and they don't believe that basically Carl believes that the share price is completely undervalued, right? Which I'm pretty sure no one on this stream would disagree with. So, but yeah, it is what it is. Unfortunately, a reverse split could be very much in the cards, but we'll be watching CGC first. If CGC gets a share price warning, and keep in mind too, right? Once they get the warning, they've still got that 180 days to regain compliance, right? So just because they get a warning doesn't mean that they're going to actually be delisted. Their share price could get back above $1 for 10 consecutive days organically, right? Or they could just do a reverse split, which would be possible, and I don't think that'd be the end of the world. But I highly doubt they're going to do it. But we'll be watching, as a gauge, we'll be watching CGC. If CGC gets a NASDAQ listing warning because of the minimum bid price rule, then we'll see how long, we'll see how it does over that 180-day grace period, right? That would be the first time, to my knowledge, in history for CGC on the NASDAQ, and then Tilray, same thing here as well. So, yeah, it is what it is. I do have to get going here soon, but we'll jump into the chat here. We have quite a few people with us after about 30 minutes. I do want to keep the video as short as possible, so we'll jump into the chat here. Just give me 1 second. I'm just going to have a drink of water. If this happens, I will be peed. So yeah, again, it's going to be a while. We still have to drop below $1, and then we have to come out of compliance, and we get the warning, and then we have to wait the grace period, and then if they do a reverse split, that's possible, but it's completely possible that they organically regain the listing requirements, right? WTF? I've been buying the dip. Yeah, I've been buying. I bought some yesterday. I didn't buy any Tilray today, but I did add net new capital yesterday into Tilray. I also bought some CGC and some Organigram. MJ is doomed. It's certainly looking that way. But again, when everybody thinks it's going to completely go to zero and there's never going to, now's the time where you want to be buying it when everybody hates it, right? When everybody hated Amazon, when everybody hated Apple, right? That's when you wanted to be buying, right? But same thing with Tesla. I don't know how many times I said people, 3 or 4 years ago, I was talking about Tesla and how it was a no-brainer investment around $150 to $200, not, pre-split, two stock splits. So pre both of those. And everybody was like, oh, are you crazy? Tesla hasn't even made any money. Look at this article from CNBC. It says that Tesla makes less cars in a year than Toyota makes in a month, and they'll never be profitable. I'm like, so you take CNBC's advice, right? Mainstream media kind of person, are you? Well, look what happened with Tesla. It went off to complete, Andromeda. It went parabolic, right? And then once everybody realized Tesla was a great investment, it tanked. And I did a video on that too, saying it was probably going to go to $100 or $85. And if we bring up Tesla here now, what is going on here? There we go. Sure what happened there. But yeah, everybody wants to own it here, right? If we bring up my chart here, I was saying back here, this is when I was saying, good idea to start buying. And then, obviously when we get close to monthly oversold, that's when you want to be buying. And then when we're overbought, you want to be selling, right? Not financial advice. Again, not telling you to buy, sell, or hold, but that's just the general idea, right? And when everybody's confident about it up here, of course, you're going to feel like it's a good investment. And then it's a no-brainer investment. But then we had the head and shoulders on the monthly time frame, and I was calling for about a drop down to $85, which was the target. And we had this hidden RSI bearish divergence as well on the price action. And we were just heavily overbought, right? What goes up must come down. We had the monthly EMA 12 and 26 bear cross that was lining up as well. And we had the death cross on Tesla as well. So on the daily time frame, yeah, we had the 50 above the 200 day coming down and crossing. Yeah, so the death cross occurred, and then we went down to about 101. And in that video, I said I was targeting $100 to $85, and then look at the low here. We had 101. So it went down almost 80%, over 75%, right? So if it happened to Tesla, right, you want to be buying it when everybody hates it and when no one's talking about it. And then generally here is where you want to be, taking profit and then reaccumulating, right? I'm currently working in Bulgaria. Very nice. Hopefully everything's going well over there. They can't survive without safe, to be honest. Well, that's kind of why they're diversified, right, into their alcohol business. They're focusing more on that. They've got Hexo now as well, so they got the Redecan brands. Hexo is well underway to cleaning up the balance sheet, and then with the synergies that they'll have, I think they're on a great path. And then also the federal excise taxes in Canada. There's a consultation period going on right now with the federal government, and like I said, there's hundreds of millions of dollars in owed federal excise taxes. So if companies start going bankrupt up the wazoo, all these little producers, then that's going to entice move the needle a little bit quicker, in my opinion, with the government here in Canada. So in my opinion, taxation is a big thing as well, especially here in Canada at home. But yeah, safe banking isn't really going to help Tilray. It's only going to help the U.S. companies, right? The sector hype obviously will lift Tilray's share price more than likely, but the U.S. listings is mostly for the U.S. companies, right? Because they can't uplist to the NYSE and the NASDAQ, and in the U.S. they operate as cash businesses essentially. So you can't get traditional financing, you can't use your credit card to buy and things like that, right? So until safe banking, that's not really going to help Canadian LPs. The only thing that's going to really help is the hype from that news breaking. But in my opinion, it's going to federally. The legalization at the federal level, the taxation issues here in Canada, and I think once this Hexo deal goes through, it's really going to put it on a good trajectory. But I think safe banking, not as important, but I would like that, obviously, because it's the hype in the sector. But the biggest thing for me, I think, is federal excise taxes here in Canada. They pay something like 3 times their revenues just in taxes right now. Yeah, exactly. Buying the dip 2 last week. Very nice. Well, no better time to be loading up. Down 99% from all-time highs, 97% from February 2021 highs. Could happen, hasn't happened. You're creating fear based on what? A thought you have. Well, I stated at the beginning that we can put our head in the sand, right? And we can say this, how dare you say that that's going to happen? Well, that's not living in reality. Again, the reason why my channel isn't blowing up is because I tell people what they need to hear, not what they want to hear. I could have done a video saying Tilray to $100, Tilray is going to $1,000, right? But the fact of the matter is I don't really care what people think about me. I don't really care about subscribers. I don't really care about views. I care about, retail investors, because I am one, and I'm the type of guy that, I prepare for all scenarios. So it can go up, down, or sideways. Is a reverse split possible? Yes. And I'm just breaking down the scenarios that even if it does drop below $1, don't be too freaked out, because we still have to get the warning, and then we'll have a grace period, and then, we'll have 180 days to regain compliance, right? So it's not about, I said that at the beginning, not creating fear. I'm just being honest and talking about that things could actually happen, right? Hello, everyone. Hello. He's not spreading FUD, only truth. I also think Tilray can go even more low. Yeah, exactly. So it's not, again, if you want someone to tell you that Tilray is going to $1,000, find another channel, right? But chances are they're probably only after views, and they don't really care about, whether or not you make money or not. Or, I'm here for the retail investor. Right? I pride myself, because I am one. And I pride myself in helping you guys and gals. And that's just, unfortunately, we got to take the good with the bad. And there could be more downside from here, unfortunately. Right? But you can change your mindset. You can say, oh, this person's spreading fear. Or you can say, oh, thank you for the information. Maybe I will start saving money on the cash for a rainy day. Maybe I will continue to dollar cost average. Right? And also just kind of giving you guys reassurances that, this isn't the first time this has happened in MJ. This won't be the last. This isn't the first time it's happened in any sector. It's happened in the banking sector, tech sector, electric vehicles, crypto. There's been tons of times and instances where it's dropped over 90% from all-time highs, right? I just showed you a Tesla chart. It dropped 75% in no time. And then Netflix in like 6 months dropped over 80%, right? So again, it's just about being prepared and expecting the worst, plan for the best, expect the worst, and just be prepared for all scenarios, up, down, sideways, right? Even if it happens, I'll be buying more in for the long term. Absolutely, I'll be buying more as well. And generally, when we see a capitulation and a bottom in the stock or in a sector, we need to see a massive flush followed by a massive bounce, right? Some type of V-shaped recovery, and then usually like weekly, monthly oversold. We're just not there yet on a lot of our names. So like I said, it could be, there could be more downside, unfortunately. I wish I could come on here and say, this is the bottom. I can see the future, bottom's in, and we're going to $1,000 Tilray price. But unfortunately, that's just not how the world works. CGC, please. I don't have time to get into it right now, but I did do a video on CGC. If you go to my channel, click on live. I did a reverse split inevitable there. And again, we'll be watching CGC. If CGC gets a warning, then we'll be watching that one. Oops, I didn't share my screen there. So it's this one here. Just go to live and then click on this one here, CGC. I did some analysis on that as well. But yeah, we'll be watching CGC. CGC gets a warning, then we'll start to kind of, pay a little bit more attention to the possibility of Tilray getting it as well. But then there'll be a grace period, right? Long-term Tilray is stable. Safe banking will come. Legalization in the US, Germany too. They have beer. What could go wrong? Yeah, and they have whiskey and Alpine. My friend's like the biggest Alpine drinker in the world. I do have to get running here though, so let's go through this a little bit quicker. Do you think this kind of thing could happen to Trulieve or Curaleaf too? Well, not right now, right? Because they're not on the NYSE or the NASDAQ. So yeah, that's possible. And I mentioned that. I might have already answered your question though. But once, like if federal legalization takes a while and we get safe banking passed and we get uplisted to the NYSE and the NASDAQ before that happens, then companies in the US could struggle with the same problem, right? And then obviously their share price right now is in Canadian dollars on the CSE and on the Canadian exchanges. So it's going to be a lot lower whenever they uplist to the NYSE and the NASDAQ, right? It'll be the same as the OTC prices. But yeah, that could happen if we're 3, 4, 5 years plus out for federal legalization and we get uplisting in the next year or two, then they, American MSOs, the MSO gang will just be in the same predicament, right? So it could very well happen, yep. As long as SAFE has not passed, every MJ or MSO are doomed. Well, again, I don't think SAFE is the biggest thing for LPs, but yeah, MSOs will benefit greatly from that. It's a pretty risky bet right now. Well, yeah, exactly. But at the end of the day, what has history told us? When things are down 99 to 95 to 99% from their all-time highs, that's generally the best time to buy, right? But people don't feel that way because it feels like the world's ending and MJ's doomed, right? But again, Amazon dropped 95%, and I bet you a lot of people said this stock's garbage. Can't believe I fell for this internet thing. And then, it's just like hindsight's 2020. And the US isn't even federally legal yet. So, I mean, I'm not worried at all. I'll just continue to dollar cost average all the money I put into MJ. And if you're down more than you can, if you're losing sleep at night and you're like, oh my God, I can't believe how much I'm down in my MJ portfolio. Well, you maybe need to look in the mirror. Again, this is me telling them what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. I could be one of those guys come on here and say, this is not your fault. This is Wall Street, and this is the shorts and the companies are stealing people's money, and they're fraudsters, and they're just taking people's money and diluting us. And it's like, no, it's your fault. You hit the buy button. I hit the buy button. I take responsibility. I take accountability, and I had a plan, right? Did I think MA was going to drop this much? Hell no. Was I surprised that it did? No, because it's done it before and it's happened. Like I said, Netflix dropped 80% in like 6 months, right? Amazon dropped 95% in 2001 after the dot-com boom, and it wasn't selling illegal drugs. So, right? But I had a 6-figure cash position. I had real estate. I had crypto. I had tech stocks. I had other stocks. I had mutual funds, right? So all these different things. I have an Airbnb, right? So I'm making cash flow that way. So we need to take responsibility and accountability. I bet on depression beginning next year. Real estate will collapse. Yeah, I think a depression is going to happen. Real estate, yeah, that's why I'm focusing on condo market, beating down condo market here. Only putting in, 50 to 100 grand. One condo cost me 70 grand, and then the other one cost me like 125 grand here in Edmonton. But I'm making my cash flow is insane. I'm making like last month, I brought in like $3,000 or $4,000, and my expenses on that Airbnb were only like $1,200. So cash flow, it's like threefold. So again, having a diversified portfolio, not just in MJ, but outside of MJ as well, right? But yeah, you got to, and again, yeah, if we hit a full-blown recession and even depression, imagine what that's going to do to MJ stocks, right? Especially if we don't get any catalyst before then. What do you think the chances of Safe Bank happening soon, Rod? It's possible. I think it has a better chance now than ever. And stock being down 99% definitely And like I've always said, we're probably going to see safe banking pass first. We'll get uplisting to the NYSE and the NASDAQ, Wall Street to get positioned, and then we'll get federal full-blown legalization, right? Because the Wall Street banks, like the JP Morgans, the Morgan Stanleys, the Goldman Sachs, have to get positioned first. And, all the hedge funds, institutional investors and things like that. And just, we're not going to see that until they get uplisted to the NYSE and the NASDAQ. So should be able to front run them pretty good. But definitely, I think it has a real good chance of passing here into the end of the year. We got the elections coming up as well. So we could see that potentially play a factor over the next year or so, where candidates could use that pro MJ legalization stance. But usually just the seasonality of coming into the fall, right? And Minnesota legalizing, I think it was the 23rd state or something like that to do recreationally. So like I said, very, very possible that we could potentially see some progress in the end of the year. And I see a new sponsor was added to the safe banking as well. So, but again, I'm going to wrap this up. Or some positive catalyst. Yep. Also, what's your favorite MSO, Rod? I really like Cureleaf. Cureleaf's my favorite. Beer, fast food, probably MJ2 are usually doing well during recessions. All I can say, yeah. And you just reminded me of something too. Tilray mentioned that they could be getting into fruits and vegetables as well. Got to get your fruits and veggies. Get your spinach, and your fruits and veggies, and your MJ and your booze. All things that are recession-proof, eh? Keep in mind that pharmaceutical alcohol, tobacco will lose. Pharmaceutical, I think you meant. Alcohol and tobacco will lose if MJ is legalized. They are probably working on ways to make it work for all of them. Yeah, they got I used to work for a pharmaceutical company, and they were just hell bent on getting CBD and their license from Health Canada, right? Because these pharmaceutical companies are the one lobbying the government. They're going to keep things happening. And yeah, I used to work for one, and that was exactly what happened. Give me 2 seconds here. I am over in time. I got to run, so just give me 2 seconds here. Oh, wow. It's hard to keep up on all this stuff. Musk was warning house owners that their property will lose in value. Yeah, I agree. Well, it's an inevitability, right? Like one of my friends bought a house in PEI and it over doubled in like 3 years. So what do you think is going to happen, right? Goes up, must come down. I expect that SPX/SPY and QQQ will see new all-time highs this year. Yeah, I'm expecting we could potentially see that, if not a test, and then watch for Congress being banned from owning stocks to mark the top. Hi, Rod, will you be adding fresh cash to your Tilray position? Yeah, I did add fresh cash yesterday. Also, if you do not believe in Tilray, make it. I want to add to my position, but I'm a bit scared. I think it's too big to fail, basically. To be completely honest with you, I don't think Tilray is going to be, I don't think that it's going to fail. It's got too much diversification, and I just can't see that being the case. Just give me 2 seconds here. Jump back into the chat here in just a second. I didn't expect this many questions, so run through it real quick here. MJ will recover, but it'll take 5 to 10 years. I think it'll recover. I can't see, we're down 99% on some days from all-time highs. I can't see it taking 5 to 10 years for us to see some meaningful. And there's just so many catalysts coming up, right? I added another 50 shares the last couple of days. Very nice. Thank you, Rod. Which are your favorite MSO top two? I really like Cureleaf, and I really like Cresco and Green Thumb. I'd say Green Thumb and Cresco probably tied. Thank you, Rod. You're welcome. My pleasure. You rock. Thank you. Very nasty. Yeah, it's been pretty brutal. People seem to love Cura. Yeah, like I said, Boris Jordan said that they would already be paying a dividend if it weren't for 280E tax code. They paid over $340 million to the U.S. government in 280E taxes. The hype is over. Oh, the hype is over. Now it's the survival of the fittest that counts. Yeah, exactly. Trying to find companies that are going to last, 5 to 10 years, the test of time, right? Well, Rod, thank you. You're welcome. So grateful to hear you. Appreciate it. Grateful to have you on the live stream. I appreciate it. At these levels, do you think CGC or Tilray is a better price? Well, they're both down around the same levels from their all-time highs, but I do think Tilray's the better value. People want gains tomorrow. MJ's in the sector for tomorrow gains. Yeah, and even really a year gain, right? Like I said, if you look at Apple almost going bankrupt in 97, if not for Microsoft saving them, it took like 20 years for the stock to recover, and then we went up to all-time highs for another 10 or 20 years after that, right? So, and it was just the early days of the internet, right? 5 to 10 years in. Same with Amazon, dropped 95%, 5 to 10 years in, and then the full critical mass and adoption happened, right? And MJ isn't even federally legal in the U.S. yet, so we're still 5 to 10 years away before we get critical mass. Very good to know. You're welcome. The thing that makes me nervous on Tilray is that they are not making money and they are losing money, Rod. What are your thoughts on that? Well, again, it's federal excise taxes is the biggest thing. And then with Hexo coming in, the synergies that they're going to have from that, and then Hexo well underway to getting its balance sheet in order and reaching profitability. There's a lot of great brands there. If we can get the Canadian government to ease up on the federal taxes, and then, obviously any kind of hype like that from the safe banking, that would obviously, again, more beneficial for MSOs, but it would definitely help share prices for LPs. But yeah, ultimately, they what was it, 16 quarters of positive adjusted EBITDA. So generally for a new company, that is one of the main things that you want to achieve is positive adjusted EBITDA, especially in a highly speculative and growth industry, right? So I think they're doing well with the cards that they were dealt, right? And again, that $150 million note, it's hard for people to get, $5-6 million in the MJ industry right now. So $150 million, again, that's just a vote of confidence in, obviously they don't want to lose $150 million. So imagine if Tilray went bankrupt, right? Big problem. So again, I think that's a vote of confidence. And then if they actually exercise that and convert it into equity, into shares, that's going to be an even bigger vote of confidence. So we'll just keep an eye out on that. That's why I've not added, because of not making money. BFF not safe by farming veggies though. Yeah. You're right. Very positive. I love it. Well, it's, like I said, it's just changing your mindset, right? This is the MJ, this is the medicine of the future, and MJ is still so early, it's not even funny. And like I said, if it can happen to Amazon and Apple, if Apple can almost go bankrupt and Amazon dropped 95% from its all-time high after the boom and bust in 2001, and they weren't selling illegal drugs, right? Like they were selling computers and books. There was nobody, getting death sentence for possession, or, books weren't federally illegal in the US, right? And Apple still managed to almost go bankrupt, and Amazon still managed to drop 95% from its all-time high. So just imagine what's going to happen when the US legalizes MJ, right? The growth is unfathomable. Like, it's, like I said, not even the tippy tip of the iceberg yet. I do lose sleep. So yeah, if you do, then, I feel for you. I know some people that one person claimed to take their life, knew someone who took their life because they were down over $200,000 on Tilray. I know people that are down hundreds of thousands of dollars. There's one of my friends, his dad was down like $1 million on T-God, which is now BZAM. But I mean, never invest, again, not financial advice, but I would never invest any more than 10% of my net worth in any sector or company. It's definitely not any company, definitely not any sector. If you're down over $100,000 and you don't have a net worth of $1 million plus, what are you doing putting $10,000 into a stock, and especially an MJ, right? So, we can look back and we can say, why me? And I can't believe these companies, they're fraudsters, they're diluting and, just taking us for everything we own. But at the end of the day, what can we learn? Because it's going to happen again, right? So what can we do to be ready for the next time around? Tilray, I think, will bounce back with no reverse split. I think so too. I think it'll bounce back. And I don't think a reverse split will happen, but it could. We'll watch CGC though, as that will be the most important factor going forward. Thank you so much for your time, Rod. You're the man. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Everyone, stop commenting so he can go. Thanks for the update. Yeah, appreciate it. You made my day up crying. Let's stay positive. Thank you. Exactly. That's all we can do, right? Is just kind of lift each other up and stay positive. It's, all this tribalistic nature and all the, the keyboard warriors bringing everybody down. And that's just not what we need right now. We just need to lift each other up and do what we can to come out on the other side, right? So grass is greener, hopefully, on the other side, no pun intended. But yeah, we'll continue to update everybody. Again, everything's possible. There's no ruling out, a reverse split for CGC, for Tilray. Granddaddy CGC, if it can happen to CGC, it can happen to Tilray. And CGC very much at risk of potentially getting that warning here as well. And then again, we'll be watching CGC. But going to end it there. Again, if you joined the AMA, let me know what you thought about that. Is there anything I missed? I didn't really see anything that stood out there. Pretty standard stuff. Anything that I didn't already go over in this video. Yeah, going to end it there. Hope you have a fantastic evening. It's Rod with Pal Group. Appreciate everybody tuning in and all your contributions, and I really do appreciate everybody joining in. And yeah, it's been tough, but unfortunately, it is what it is. And this, again, change your mindset. This is a buying opportunity. It won't be the last time that this happens. But going to end it there. Thanks again. We'll see you on the next video. Take care, everyone.